You have taken your commitment to being on the state board for the last few years, and even before then, all the different things that you have helped us with when it comes to school safety and the well-being of all our students in South Carolina. So we appreciate you very much. That was a fun day last Thursday. It was our final meeting of the year with all the district superintendents, and it culminated with Alan Walters being named our District Administrator of the Year, and also Dr. Christina Melton, Superintendent in Lexington 5, being named the Superintendent of the Year. So it was a nice week. Thursday, and then the night before, many of you joined us for a wonderful celebration of our teachers. As you know, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and it was very fitting for us to hold the announcement of the 2022 South Carolina State Teacher of the Year. We were unable to have the banquet and the gala event the year before. The honor roll teachers, the 5 finalists from that year and State Teacher of the Year, obviously were there, and we recognized them. Sarah Gams was our outgoing State Teacher of the Year. She did a marvelous job, but I'm very pleased to announce, if you were not there or have not seen it, our new State Teacher of the Year is Amy Carter. Amy is from Lexington, Richland School District 5. She is an English teacher at Chapin High School, and she is outstanding, and I know will do a beautiful job. I believe she and the honor roll teachers, the other finalists, have been invited to be at your August meeting. So you'll have a chance to hear from her and meet her and the other finalists, who are from Horry County, Beth Hendrick. Beth is a teacher at PD Elementary School. Danny Stroud from Lexington 1 Gilbert High School, Angelica Childs of Greenville County Schools Virtual Program, and Jenny Proctor from Kershaw County Lugoff Elgin High School. So we look forward to having those teachers, and this gives me the opportunity to once again just say thank you to all of our teachers across the state, the 55,000 who work every day in our classrooms. We are all back offering 5-day in all 81 districts. That happened on April the 26th, and I'm happy about that. We still have some families who are choosing virtual, and so some districts are running virtual programs because of that choice of those parents. But we are so thrilled to have more and more students back face-to-face with their teachers. I had the privilege yesterday to visit up in Spartanburg School District 5. I was at Abner Creek Elementary Academy and also Burns High School. And I'll tell you, as I've met with teachers over the last few months, usually I say, "How are you doing? How are you doing?" And I got an answer yesterday that I had never heard in this year. A teacher raised her hand and she said, "Well, you might think I'm going to say this has been a challenging year," and it has, but I wanted you to know that because of the support of our district and school administrators, we've had our best year ever. The best year ever. And as I entered Abner Creek Elementary, I saw they have a sign, and their focus has been, "Students, remember, we love you." And that has been the focus for their principal and their staff this year, to really let their students know that we love you, we're here for you. And the principal has made sure that the children feel that, as well as the teachers. And they are a very strong family unit at that school. They support each other, and he has really focused on his staff taking care of themselves and their family. So I think that's a great message, and I just share that with you today because it's important for you as state board members. I know you have a lot of hard decisions. You have lots of folks with differing opinions. We all do. I certainly have during this school year. But I think if we keep our focus on the well-being of our students and making those decisions, what's right for our students and their families, and taking care of each other, it will help us all get through this together. And then that's my next part of the message. We're almost there. We have about 20, anywhere from 5 days. We have some schools that will be completing their year in early, mid to late May. Most are in mid-June because of the delayed start this year, but we can definitely see the end of the school year coming. Our schools are busy in the next few days beginning to give their state assessments, so that's an important part of the closure of this year, and doing those activities where they like to show off all the accomplishments of the students and through concerts and those kind of things. Those events may be a little different than usual, but they're about to happen. So my focus right now is let's make it to the end of the year. Let's make it as good as we can and as safe as we can for our students. The legislature is closing down as well. This is their last week, and we still have several pieces of legislation that are important to us. One is Senate Bill 203. That is the Technical Assistance Bill. It deals with how do we work with our lower performing schools and districts. How do we work with those boards? And both houses have passed the bill. It went back to the Senate. It's headed over to the House, I hope, possibly today or tomorrow. And we're asking the House to concur. And if so, then that bill will be completed and go to the governor for his signature. So that will be very important. Budget-wise, we fared well. In the budget, there's a pay raise for teachers, or bonus for teachers, a pay raise for our state employees, those who work here at the agency, so we're really thrilled about that. And overall, we did well. There's a lot of federal money, as you know, that is being sent to states to help make sure schools are reopened and that we address the learning loss through interventions and through summer school programs, after-school programs with our students, not just this upcoming year, but through 2024. Dr. Mathis, I'm sure, will be telling you a little more about it. We are working right now with districts as they write their academic recovery plan. We are incentivizing districts that they use best practices and those programs and methods that we know work, which number one is having a really good, strong teacher sitting beside a child. So they need to hire more tutors, more interventionists, and really use highly researched programs that have worked in after school and that we see the success of the students by participating in those. So in our method is going to be to incentivize those districts by saying, here are the things we recommend that you use, and if you put those into your academic recovery plan, then you will have access to additional funding from the state ESSER dollars. And Dr. Mathis may go into more detail, but all of that's happening right now. So there's an awful lot going on at the agency. It's a challenging time to get all the work done, but a very rewarding time because I think that we will have the opportunity to really make a difference out in some areas of the state where funding has been an issue before. So that concludes what I have to share with you today. I'll be happy, Madam Chair, to answer any questions any member might have.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions for Superintendent Spearman? I don't hear any virtual questions either, so thank you. Ms. Hazelwood?
Thank you. I just wanted to give you an update. I failed to do that at the last meeting. In this fiscal year, we have expended approximately $22,900, well, almost $23,000 on breach of contract cases thus far this year. Unprofessional conduct, $19,400 plus for unprofessional conduct cases, and then public reprimands were a nominal $390. Those costs include the hearing officers and any cost related to the court reporter, or all cost from the court reporter. So breach of contract cases, which we have to schedule, we don't prosecute a breach of contract case. The district does. The district comes in to present their case to the hearing officer, but we pay for that. We pay for all those. So breach of contract, $23,000, unprofessional conduct, almost $20,000. And we still have one more month with hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for public comment. And we have one person who would like to speak today, Meg Johnson. We'd just like to welcome you for participating in our meeting. And you know we have 5 minutes set aside for the public comments, and we can't answer you back since we're hearing what you have to say for the first time. And since people are having trouble hearing virtually, will you pull the microphone down so they can hear what you say? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the school board for this opportunity to speak to you. I'd like to address curriculum. And I'd like to do that by giving you first a little of my own background. In 1975, I determined that I was not sending my children to public school. And I educated them at home and was very active. Some of the buzzwords that we were concerned about then were revisionist history and values clarification. These were big deals, not to mention the dumbing down way back then of the curriculum as far as the basics kids needed to learn. I happen to be a resident of Berkeley County, and recent events there have certainly put to the forefront what is going on in our schools today. We need to spend time on the basics. Kids need to have the fundamentals in order to function in our society. But we have taken away from them at the high school level, particularly, a lot of opportunities to learn skills and trades that they would be able to go on in the world and learn. And instead, we are forcing a lot of our children who would be better served with those opportunities to continue to perform academically. And another thing we're doing, which is pretty concerning, is we are filling a lot of their time with talk about values clarification and revisionist history, which maybe some of you are not old enough to have heard of. We now are introducing things like the 1619 Project, critical race theory, and different kinds of social emotional learning. This is, to me, astounding. When I was concerned 40 years ago about values clarification and revisionist history, and I look at where we've gone, and we are on the wrong track. And I hope that South Carolina, being a strong, at least it has been, red state that had some common sense and good patriots, would be saying, no, we are not going in that direction. I would urge you to watch out for what's happening around this state and to pay attention to what the people of this state actually want. And it is not where we're going right now or where people are attempting to put us. So I'm asking you to consider carefully how our children are going to spend their time in school, that it will be learning the skills and even trades or whatever they need so they can be successful in life at all levels, not just go to college, but not to be introducing divisive, antagonistic, and hostile attitudes and teachings in our school that don't belong there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Ms. Johnson. The Policy and Legislative Committee did not have an agenda today. Mr. Walters, I think you presided over the Educator Profession Committee for Ms. Pearson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did do that this morning, and the committee approved 3 action items: the new Educator Preparation Program approval recommendation for Coastal Carolina University's Bachelor of Music Education, the South Carolina Educator Preparation Guidelines, Standards, Policies, and Procedures Title II designations, and the approval of the 2021 updates to the South Carolina Certification Assessment Program. And those items were placed on the consent agenda as EP01, EP02, and EP03.
Do any board members have questions for Mr. Walters about that committee meeting?
I have a question.
Okay, Mr. Bootson.
Do you happen to know, Mr. Walters, I was particularly interested in the change in the guidelines, the Title II guidelines, and the response that was given to a question that, or maybe it wasn't a question, but anyway, it was stated that the shift is now to use the fact that teacher training institutions are meeting the standard because they're accredited. This had to do with low-performing schools. Do you know how many low-performing schools we have had? This is low-performing teacher training schools.
If that wasn't addressed in the committee, maybe we can ask for that, Mr. Bootson.
Yeah, I don't know that that was addressed, and I don't know if Ms. Walsh is available to respond to that, but we can certainly find it out.
We'll find out for you, Mr. Bootson.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, those are on the consent agenda. Thank you. Ms. Stapleton, will you talk to us about the Standards Learning and Accountability Committee?
Yes, thank you. This morning, we did have one approval item presented to the Standards Learning and Accountability Committee. Dr. Ann Presley, Director of the Office of Standards and Learning, Division of College and Career Readiness, was there this morning with us, and also Dr. Dawn Hawkins, the Education Associate from the Office of Standards and Learning. And they both were able to present to the committee the first reading of the South Carolina College and Career Ready Standards for Physical Education 2021. And we did vote as a committee. We approved the first reading, and we did vote to place that on the consent agenda item today.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Stapleton? Okay. Mr. Walters, again, would you talk to us about the work of the Educator Licensure Committee?
Yes, Madam Chair. We heard 5 cases this morning. The first one was a order of public reprimand on the grounds of unprofessional conduct. The second was a consent order of public reprimand on the grounds of unprofessional conduct. The third case was an order of suspension for unprofessional conduct for a breach of contract. The fourth case was an order of suspension on the grounds of unprofessional conduct. And the fifth case was the consent order of voluntary surrender of a certificate on the grounds of unprofessional conduct. And these cases were all either consent orders or they were default cases, which of course means that nobody was present.
Thank you, and...
They were ratified by the
Yes.
full board at its 11 o'clock meeting.
That was what I was about to say, and the full board also heard 3 additional cases of orders of suspension and 1 reinstatement case. So our consent agenda has been developed from the other 2 committees, from Educator Professions and Standards Learning and Accountability. That consent agenda has been handed out. Is there a motion to approve those items?
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda items.
Thank you, Ms. Stapleton. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is that you, Ms. Frierson?
Yes, and someone else. But
Oh, Ms.
second.
Chapman, second by Ms. Chapman. Thank you. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
2 noes recorded. Okay, that one passes. And now we will have our information, our literacy update. Dr. Mathis.
Thank you, Dr. Woodall. Before I go into the notes that I have for you today, just as a reminder, we've been talking about the academic recovery plans.
Hold that thought. We got a parliamentarian.
Yes, I'm sorry. You have 2 public comment. You have 2 public state board items on your agenda. Second reading on both science standards and WIDA. So it's on. It should be on your agenda immediately following the consent agenda. So Dr. Presley is here for the second reading of the consent agenda. Not consent agenda. I'm sorry.
Okay.
The science standards.
Yes,
And then someone else is here for WIDA.
Sarah Longshore for the second one. Thank you, Dr. Presley. I'm sorry I skipped that.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. Superintendent Spearman, we are very pleased to be able to present the science standards to you for second reading and final approval. Gwendolyn Shealy, our team lead and our science education associate for elementary, will be providing you with the presentation. We have another individual with us, Catherine Stabell. She is our secondary science education associate. She's there in the black and white, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank both of those individuals for their hard work on this. Gwendolyn?
Thank you.
Right. So I am honored and proud to showcase for your approval the work of over 500 people in revising the science standards for our South Carolina students. As you can see on the timeline, the EOC and SCDE review committees convened for a full review of the 2014 standards in October through November of 2019. A full analysis of the EOC and SCDE review committees' data was conducted to inform next steps, with revisions in May through August of 2020. The writing team also read and studied the entire research base of the framework for K-12 science education and other guiding research prior to revising. Public review was held in October through November, and the data analysis informed revisions in December 2020 through January 2021 with the approval of the SCDE. The full revision process was a statewide approach. We intentionally increased numbers to ensure the community's involvement was valued and equitable throughout the standards revision work. Science educators, representatives of higher education, business and industry, community members, leaders, parents, national science education leaders, as well as recent South Carolina graduates were all involved throughout the process. So if you'll see this next slide, you can note the significant increases in all numbers and also added inclusion of students, pre-service teachers, and national advisors in the 2021 standards. For the community involvement, the listing of business and industry SCDE offices, colleges and universities, and informal educators shows the community's involvement throughout the standards revision process. This South Carolina map depicts the statewide representation of over 500 stakeholders that were involved in the revision process for our South Carolina students. The different colors on the map represent all phases of the standard revision process. A strong recommendation from the SCDE as well as the EOC reviews was the call for a reduction in content so teachers have the time necessary to guide students in actively engaging in science. In this reduction process, it was recommended that K-12 spiraling was ensured. A clear direction was given to develop standards that are three-dimensional and focused on student performance. Recommendations for interactive standards with theoretical graphics, color, and icon was stressed. The recommendation to embed engineering K-12 for all students and have standards written for real-world application and sense-making was made. A deeper connection to the profile of the South Carolina graduate was also strongly recommended. These revisions resulted from the EOC and SCDE recommendations. If you'll notice, these first two bullets work together as research guided the reduction in content. All sciences, physical, life, earth and space, and engineering are spiraled through big science ideas and developmentally appropriate for K-12. In 2014, there were 583 standard and performance indicators. In 2021, there are now 198 standard performance expectations for K-12. The three dimensions are explicitly shown within each performance expectation. To show the interconnectedness of the three dimensions, graphics, color, and icons were incorporated. The engineering design process was created through collaboration to show a deep alignment to the profile of the South Carolina graduate. To ensure alignment of our engineering design process to the profile of the South Carolina graduate, the design team included IHE representatives, educators, researchers, recent South Carolina graduates currently studying engineering in our South Carolina universities and colleges, parents, business leaders, and community members. The public review process yielded the following additional revisions. Links to current research were embedded. K-12 conceptual articulations of all three dimensions were developed and linked within the standards. These research links and articulations both deeply support curriculum development and professional learning. The engineering graphics were redesigned and language clarified based on the public review. Additional language was clarified to support teachers' understanding of the three-dimensional learning, and a design team created an additional and innovative theoretical graphic to support curriculum development and professional learning. Here you see the three-dimensional learning theoretical graphic. It was created by a design team consisting of national, state, and local level experts and advisors. This one-page graphic is designed to provide a guiding framework for educators to inform implementation of learning in three-dimensional science classrooms for all South Carolina students. Again, it is my honor to showcase this work. It is our belief that through these standards, students will become South Carolina's leaders and problem solvers, as outlined in the Science Standards vision. In conclusion, I'll now take questions.
Do we have any questions? Our virtual members? All right, we need a motion to approve SBE 01 as presented. Do we have that motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
I think that was at the same time, but I'll say by Ms. Stapleton. All in favor of approving SBE 01 as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for your work. And now our second item under the State Board report, the WIDA Development Standards Framework Readoption, second reading. Is Dr. Longshore presenting that one?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good
Madam
afternoon,
Chair.
Dr. Longshore.
Members of the board. Good afternoon. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Spearman. Again, my name is Sarah Longshore, and I am the Director in the Office of Federal and State Accountability. I will be joined by my two colleagues, Susan Murphy and Elizabeth Supan, who I will turn the presentation over to in just a moment. But first, the purpose of us being here today, as was mentioned, is to request a second reading and approval for the readoption of the WIDA English Language Development Standards 2020 framework. This framework provides the basis for instruction and assessment for multilingual learners, also referred to as English learners, in kindergarten through 12th grade. The WIDA ELD standards align with the required annual English language proficiency assessment, our state's accountability system, and incoming multilingual learners identification requirements. At this time, I'm now going to hand the presentation over to my colleague, Mrs. Supan, for a review of the English Language Development Standards Framework. Ms. Supan?
Thank you for that introduction, Dr. Longshore. Good afternoon, everyone. During our first reading last month, we discussed the framework in greater detail. Today, we look forward to providing a brief review of the enhanced WIDA English Language Development, or ELD standards framework, and the benefits we believe it provides our educators and multilingual learners, or MLs, in South Carolina. The WIDA ELD standards framework has been reorganized into these four components you see, ranging from broad to narrow in scope. Again, those are the WIDA ELD standards statements, key language uses, language expectations, and proficiency level descriptors. They work together to make a comprehensive picture of language development. The 2020 edition of the ELD standards will continue to include effective components from the 2012 version, such as the can-do philosophy that emphasizes the assets and potentials of multilingual learners, the WIDA ELD standard statements shown below, the 6 levels of language proficiency, as well as the 6 grade level clusters. It is important to note that the WIDA ELD standards have remained the same. but they have been enhanced by the addition of new and expanded resources to ensure alignment with current policy, theory, and practice. These 5 statements continue to provide the broadest conceptual framing and illustrate the integration of content and language. We are encouraged by the new updates to the framework and believe they will greatly benefit our educators and multilingual learners, or MLs, in South Carolina. The standards framework is now organized into 4 components, includes more inclusive modes of communication and grade level cluster materials listed here, language expectations, functions and features, proficiency level descriptors, annotated language samples, and a jump-off point for curricular conversations between language and content integration. I will now pass the presentation over to Mrs. Susan Murphy to review the benefits of the framework and the proposed timeline.
Thank you, Mrs. Supan. We believe the 2020 edition of the ELD Standards Framework provides many benefits for our educators and multilingual learners, or MLs. WIDA has historically grounded its work in language development standards as a driver of equity for MLs. The 2020 edition of the WIDA standards reflects that continued commitment. These standards uphold the goal of increasing equity for MLs by setting high expectations for all students, as well as providing common and visible language expectations in relation to grade-level academic content. By leveraging the unique assets of MLs, the 2020 WIDA ELD standards elevate diverse cultural, linguistic, educational, and other background traits that must be considered as students are provided avenues for access to quality learning opportunities in all areas. MLs are best served when they learn content and language together in linguistically and culturally sustaining ways. The standards framework promotes this type of content-driven language learning. Systematic, explicit, and sustained language development across the standards and grade bands is a foundational piece of the 2020 WIDA ELD standards. Educators can use these research-based, carefully sequenced standards as the basis for their instruction, as well as a guide for their ML's language growth. Again, the 2020 WIDA ELD Standards Framework adds tremendous value to our effective standard course of study currently in place. Once adopted, the Title III team will facilitate the professional learning rollout phase. The bridge year of implementation will occur during the 2021-22 school year and will be the beginning stages of utilization of the ELD standards. Professional learning will continue throughout the entire process, as we believe that professional learning and support is vital to an effective standards implementation process. The Title III team will also convene a group of educators to design and develop all support documents and will collect and evaluate data in order to pivot our support as needed. Full implementation of the ELD standards will begin in the 2022-23 school year. Our recommendation is that the State Board of Education adopt the 2020 edition of the WIDA English Language Development Standards as the South Carolina Standard Course of Study for English Language Development to be fully implemented in the 2022-23 school year. And thank you for allowing us this time, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions?
One.
Mr. Kaprowski.
Madam Chairman, thank you so much for the time and effort that you have done and the contributions. And I kind of asked this last time, is there an element of this to instill, in terms of equity, the citizenship for students who, in this category, to appreciate also the ideals and civics of what it is to become an American and help instill in the English language development citizenship?
Could you hear him? His question is about, is there a component of citizenship, like what it means to become an American, like a civic section built in somewhere?
That's a very good question, and I appreciate the opportunity to respond to that, Madam Chair. The standards are to promote and support English language development. And so they are not content specific. The standards are used to teach the content in a way that can support the academic growth and achievement of our multilingual learners. So it doesn't speak to any particular topic as much as it does strategies and supports and resources to help multilingual learners attain English language proficiency.
And I thank you for that, and I don't mean to diminish the importance of what you've done in any way, but is that a missed opportunity in some way also to help not to incorporate that as part of what you do?
Dr. Mathis.
Mr. Caprosi, I think I can help with that a little bit. That would be found in our social studies standards. That citizenship piece that you're talking about, civics, would be found in our social studies standards. These are a different set of standards, but all of our students would have that opportunity. All of our students.
I just mentioned that because I know with my own grandparents, the language they spoke at home was not English, but what was instilled in them was also as the process of Americanization and was part of their education that stayed with them all their life and made them who they were. But thank you very much.
That you would find that in our social studies
Thank
standards.
Do we have any other questions for any of the four? Mr. Bootson, I see some activity on your screen. Are you trying to talk to us?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then, considering the second reading of adoption for the WIDA framework of readoption, do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion, we readopt the WIDA English Language Development Standards Framework.
Thank you, Ms. Stapleton. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Walters. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed to the readoption, please say no. That definitely passes. And again, I apologize for skipping over SB 1 and 2. That's why we have the two on the front row who try to keep me in line. Now, Dr. Mathis, it is your turn. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Dr. Woodall. We'll just rewind here. Before I get to my notes, I just want to mention that the academic recovery plans that we've asked each district to submit are due May 28th. We have approximately about 10 of those have already been submitted. As you know, the focus is how we can recover in ELA, it's English Language Arts, our literacy component, and math. And also making sure that we address for especially our students who are in secondary level, that on-time graduation, that we're meeting their needs. So the districts are submitting those plans, and as they do, they will get feedback. And just to make sure that the goals that they set and the strategies that they have are actionable, and that if there's any point in that plan that they will be required to evaluate it if they're not making progress, and how do you regroup if that's the case, or stay on course if progress is being made. So we're looking forward to reading those and talking with superintendents and instructional leaders for the past few weeks around the state. I think there's a lot of energy and time being spent on these plans to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students and that unfinished learning that we're trying to address. With that, you've also heard us talk about the Instruction Hub and the Learning Object Repository that is being made available to all of our districts in the state. Just as an update, the next phase of the Instruction Hub, we also call that the Learning Object Repository, will begin this summer. The new phase, or the next phase, will include the development of lessons and lesson plans written by our education associates, as well as teachers that have been recommended and vetted by district superintendents and instructional leaders from across the state. They will spend this summer helping to write lesson plans and units that can be uploaded into the repository and then made available to all teachers in the state, making sure that those who are in those underserved areas and have lack of resources have access to good quality, effective lessons that address our content standards. During the initial phase of this lesson plan development, as you can well imagine, that's a big lift. We're going to focus on literacy, English language arts, math, and also on social studies. The social studies standards are the new standards that were adopted last year, are being fully implemented this year in 21-22. So we want to make sure that our teachers, especially at grade levels like third grade where geography is now introduced, or seventh grade where that's introduced, they have good lesson plans that address those standards that may not have been at their content grade before. We also want to make sure that English language arts and math lessons are there to help districts with their academic recovery plans and continue that unfinished learning of these students. All lesson plans, I want to emphasize, will be aligned to our content standards. And we will follow a rubric that has been developed for South Carolina by the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching, NIET. You may be familiar with that rubric. Our teachers know it is their evaluation rubric and how they're evaluated. And so this rubric gets at the depth of that same resource. The key components in the lesson plans that we're looking for are standards alignment. We're looking for clear instructional delivery practices, rigorous content. We're also looking for how students are engaged and not just compliant in a lesson, and then are they appropriately assessed on the content to know that we know if they have met those learning targets. As you can tell, there's an emphasis in this lesson plan development on aligning to our standards. Our standards are of high quality, they're rigorous standards. If you want to increase student achievement, one of the first things we need to do, make sure we do, is we teach to the depth of that standard. And oftentimes we miss that goal of teaching to the rigor and the depth of that standard. And so these lesson plans will provide the opportunity to get to that level of understanding. So our goal is to have the lesson plans available for our teachers who choose to use those in August of this year. We also know that you will remember the State Department, we received a $15 million grant from the U.S. Department of Education earlier this year. It was called Rethinking K-12 Education, and we're focusing on in the early grades with that grant. But one of the things that we noticed through the last year in the pandemic, whether it's face-to-face instruction or virtual instruction, students are receiving more of their instruction. It's increasing, whether it's provided through a device or a learning management platform. And so we realize that there is sometimes a disconnect with parents in understanding how to support and help their children. So the grant allows us to hire 5 regional coaches that will be placed throughout the state to connect to parents and help parents support their children when they bring a device home and are using that to complete a lesson. And so we want parents, we don't want this to be a barrier, we want it to be a connector and how they can fully engage in their child's education. Our goal here is, again, through our parent coaches that we will call them learning engagement coaches, as they connect to parents, where are the resource gaps? What do they need in resources to help make sure their children provided all the resources that they need? And the goal at the end is just to make sure that we help parents as we move forward stay fully connected to their child's education. So Dr. Woodall, those are my comments, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Dr. Mathis?
I have.
Ms. Frierson?
Yes, I'm excited about what I'm hearing concerning a literacy update. Will there be any professional development, best practices, modeling opportunities, something where teachers can really see how they should do what they need to do?
Sure. And Ms. Firestone, we're calling that promising practices because we need the practices that we're going to get the most return on our investment. So when you look at the lesson plans, I think one of the best things that will come out of this is a teacher, an administrator, as they work together in their professional learning communities, we will provide the same, we'll provide professional learning that goes with that. But here is a model lesson that meets the rigor of this standard. Now break it apart. Compare that maybe to something you've done. How does this, what are the components of this lesson that meet the rigor of that standard and the expectation? The second phase of that is how can you effectively deliver it? Clear instructions so that the student knows exactly where they're to go with that lesson. And then in the end, as they're evaluated, the teacher knows, I know what you know. I know if you know the content. So there will be a cycle of that, but we think that this is probably one of the best opportunities to provide professional learning around something that they can take immediately into their classroom and use it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes. Is this Dr. West?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Mathis, I just wanted to give a gentle reminder, if we could look at the timeline for your institutions of higher ed to have access to the Learning Object Repository as well, that's going to be a great tool for us to help.
Well, you got the
Absolutely.
gist.
We will.
And I was just going to say, there have been some districts who started late that I wanted to confirm with some people here today that I was telling them the right thing. They're having a challenge staffing some of their summer programs. They recognize a gap. But the teachers, and trying to start next school year closer to time, there is no break for their staff members and teachers. And they are asking questions, Superintendent Spearman, about shortening their school year in June. I'm sure they're contacting you about how to do that. But if we get those questions, that's not a state board issue. That would have to go through the legislative delegation. But just want to tell you, they are wholeheartedly developing their plans. But as they're polling people, they are facing challenges with the staffing and the continuity because those teachers are going straight from that late stay to the
Summer
academic
school.
gap acknowledgement to the on-time start for the next school year. That's a big challenge for those districts.
It is. And that's why we hope that when the repository, the instruction hub is fully up and running, it's that one-stop shop for teachers. They have one place to go to help develop those lessons instead of going multiple places. And it's quality. It's aligned to the standards.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Now it's time for our Allendale, Florence, and Williamsburg updates with Kimberly Mack. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm going to provide a brief update on what's going on in Allendale, Florence 4, and Williamsburg. In Allendale County Schools, they recently developed a partnership with the Celebrate Freedom Foundation, CFF, STEM Educational Outreach Program. And on the 29th of April, Dr. Gilmore and the District Teachers of the Year visited the CFF headquarters in West Columbia to gain insight about the foundation's offering for students. The district also offered a virtual community meeting on April the 26th, and they provided information to parents regarding their summer recovery programs, which I mentioned last month. They're doing K-12. And 2 of their Allendale Fairfax High School students were selected for Boeing's STEM Signing Day 2021. In Florence School District 4, the district's finalizing its learning loss plans, and they're going to also offer summer services to their students grades K through 12. And they prepared for their Cognia Progress Monitoring Review that they held last Monday, May 3rd. So we're looking forward to those results. In Williamsburg County School District, the district's partnering with MUSC to provide COVID vaccinations to all interested employees. And 2 C.E. Murray High School students were selected for Boeing's STEM Signing Day 2021 as well. This concludes my report.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Mack? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now, Mr. Strother, will you fill us in on Clarendon?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Board, Superintendent Spearman, and all guests. Thank you for having me. This is an update on the financial takeover of Clarendon School District 1, which began in October the 15th, 2020. Well, since then, some of the things that were facing us at that point in time were a liability to the South Carolina Retirement System, the IRS, the South Carolina Department of Revenue, and also we were facing at that time a $2.3 million cash deficit as of June 30th. As an update, since October, the retirement system liability has been paid in full, roughly $800,000. The IRS obligation has been paid in full in the amount of $425,000. The obligation to the South Carolina Department of Revenue has been paid in full in the amount of $125,000. And also, a tax anticipation note was due, and it's been paid in full in the amount of $2.6 million. So those are some of the things that led to that financial takeover. And all those things have been taken care of since October. The other thing that we reported was a $2.3 million cash deficit in October. Since then, we have come down from 2.3 to 1.9 to 1.7 to 1.1, and then now, last month I reported a $230,000 cash deficit. As of the cash flow that was reported to by Mr. Lodenholt for the end of May, I'm happy to report that we now are reporting a surplus as of June 30th of about $7,000. So we've come out of that cash deficit, and we are now at $7,000 cash surplus. So good news on that point. So I think some of the things that have led to that progress, of course, spending freeze remains in effect, was put in place and remains in effect, reducing the accounts payable cost. We had some open positions that were not filled, so payroll costs have been reduced due to the following. An assistant superintendent of special services retired on November the 30th, and Clarendon 3 is covering the services for that by a stipend for that with Clarendon 1. Transportation for the two districts was consolidated as of January the 1st, 2020-21. There was a vacant HR position that remains unfilled, and the duties are being handled by Clarendon 4. A Medicaid clerk position became open and will not be filled, and those duties are being handled through shared services. There was also a music teacher position that became open, and Clarendon 2 is sharing services so that band students can continue to receive instruction. And also, the Clarendon 1 superintendent will be furloughed the last 10 days of June. And from the department standpoint, the department will assist David Lodenholt in identifying expenses that shifted from general fund to CARES, ESSER funds received by the district. There are also measures to help reduce the deficit, or we're continually being discussed. Those measures are continually being discussed. The South Carolina Department of Education Finance Office has representatives on site in Clarendon 1 day a week to assist with entering and approving federal budgets and filing federal claims, which will help with that cash flow as well. The South Carolina Department of Education Finance Office is also assisting with assuring that the annual audit for FY20 is completed. We have an auditor coming down on site on May the 18th. And I will be there to help welcome that auditor in and show that person around with the district. The Clarendon 1 Board of Trustees is being updated monthly on the financial condition of the district, and also the State Board of Education is being updated monthly on the financial condition of the district. So this concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Strother? I don't see any movement on the screen. Thank you.
Thank y'all very much.
I'm not aware of any other business, so if you've given Tracy whatever you need to, that concludes our meeting for the day, and we are adjourned.